Hi everyone and welcome back to English for You. I'm Pat.
And I'm Mike.
And we're on day 2 of our story article for this month, Neil Gaiman's The Graveyard Book. So Nobody Owens is a boy who lives in a graveyard.
That's right, a real human boy, but he lives in a graveyard. He had a very interesting and actually kind of sad story. It says he used to live nearby in a normal house with his family, but his family was killed by an evil man. His family was murdered by a murderer in a terrible crime. But at a very young age, he was just 1 year old, 1.5. He might have been walking around the house or felt the danger, and he got out of the house before this evil man, this murderer, could kill him. And he escaped into a graveyard, which was right next to his house.
The residents there are ghosts or strange people, and they take care of the boy, calling him Nobody Owens, it's their name for him, or Bod for short. And they teach Bod how to hide from the living, talk to the dead, and other things like that.
Okay, so he becomes part of this sort of ghostly family of dead people or undead people in the graveyard. And another person who lives there, along with all the ghosts and Bod, is this character Silas. Now, Silas is interesting because he's neither living nor dead. So he's not a real life person, but he's also not a ghost that you can just, put your hand through. He's maybe like a zombie or a vampire or something like that.
Just some mysterious kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. But he is definitely not a normal person, but he is kind of the main person who takes care of Bod. And also he takes care of many of the other people, the ghosts, in the cemetery, in the graveyard, because Silas can actually leave the graveyard and make contact with the outside world. He can go out and do stuff literally like shopping and stuff like that because he's not a ghost. So that also allows him to take care of Bod. So when this little boy needs books or toys or new shoes or clothes, Silas can go out and get those for him.
So this is a pretty strange and interesting story.
Right.
What is going to happen next? Let's find out.
Reading The Graveyard Book. Bod has 2 special friends, one alive and one dead. He first meets Scarlet Amber Perkins when her family comes to look around the graveyard one day. She and Bod are both around 5 years old, and Scarlet's playful nature is just what Bod needs. They can't resist exploring the whole graveyard, even the places Bod has been told not to go. Together, they enter an ancient tomb inside a hill, which disturbs the sleer. This dark presence is guarding its master's treasure as it waits for him to return. Bod and Scarlet are scared, but they touch nothing and leave safely. After Scarlet moves away, Bod makes another friend. He meets Liza Hemstock just outside the graveyard, where she was buried without a headstone. She was treated this way because she was killed for being a witch. She is always good to Bod, though, and keeps him safe as he grows older. Bod later pays her back for her kindness by making a simple headstone for her. She is touched by his thoughtful gesture.
All right, so we're back and we're in part 2 of our story, and we're spending a bit more time with Bod and his very unusual family. Well, he's got an unusual family, so you would expect him to have unusual friends, wouldn't you? Well, you're not disappointed because we learn Bod has 2 special friends, one alive and one dead.
Okay.
Very interesting. Okay, so one of his friends is a real boy or girl, a real child, and the other one is not anymore, a dead person, I guess.
So this part 2 of this story is kind of giving you an idea of what life is like in the graveyard and who the people are in the story.
All right.
So we see Bod, first meets Scarlet Amber Perkins when her family comes to look around the graveyard one day. So this is the alive one, the real one.
This is the real alive girl, and she was just spending some time in the area. Maybe her parents liked the old church or something. So along with her parents, she came to look around, to visit, kind of like a tourist would, around the graveyard one day. And there, of course, she made a surprising discovery. She met Bod. And then we read she and Bod are both around 5 years old. And Scarlett's playful nature is just what Bod needs. So he has a nice home, I guess.
Yep.
The ghosts and Silas take care of him. But, you know, he doesn't have a lot of friends. He doesn't have a lot of people to play with.
Of his age.
And of course, Scarlett is very, very friendly. That's why we called her we said she had a playful nature. She's friendly. She likes to have fun. She wasn't scared and didn't immediately scream and run away from Bod. No, she was actually, hey, who are you? And they started to have a good time because, of course, Bod, I would imagine, is also quite a playful young guy. When we talk about being playful, we're basically saying someone who likes to play, who likes to have fun. They don't take things too seriously. They like to have a good time. And it might be part of their mood, their character. They always have a smile on their face. They never get too upset or sad or anything like that. They're just a person who it feels good to spend some time with and to be around.
Yeah, and this is just what Bod needs. Now let's look at today's language in focus to explain that bit of grammar. So with this bit of grammar, we're using the word what as a pronoun to stand in for the thing that. It's just a more economical, quicker way to use language in this kind of clause. We often use the phrase, for example, that's just what I need. Like someone brings you a cup of tea and you go, that's just what I need. That is the thing that I need right now. We might also use this phrase to give advice. For example, we might say, what you need to do is study harder, meaning the thing that you need to do is study harder. So I guess with Bod, he's kind of been growing up without too many kids around.
Sure.
It's something that's missing from his life. So having a playful friend is just the thing that, or just what, he needs.
Absolutely. Having a happy, safe, and loving home is wonderful, but all kids need to play, and kids, of course, enjoy playing with other people their own age. So along with his new friend Scarlett, he has some adventures. As we read, they can't resist exploring the whole graveyard, even the places Bod has been told not to go. Oh, maybe they're going to get in some trouble here, but kids often can't resist having adventures. And one of the best ways to get them to go to a place is for the parents to say, don't go to that place. And then the kids are going to be like, really? Why not? Because they can't resist it. If you resist something, you kind of fight against it. You kind of say, no, I'm not going to do that. There might be a lot of good reasons for you to do it, but you know that maybe this isn't a good idea. Maybe I shouldn't do it right now. It won't be good for me, although I really want to. So the idea here, of course, would be something like if you're on a diet, you should resist eating that delicious food like those French fries or that chocolate cake or something like that. If you're really tired, it might be hard to resist falling asleep as your eyes get heavy, but you got to fight against it. You have to stay up to study, or you have to stop eating junk food so you can lose some weight and be healthier or something like that. But it's a struggle. It's not easy, but using the power of your mind, or maybe the power of your body. If you're pushing something away from you, you're resisting it because it has a lot of power and it's trying to do something to you that you probably don't want. For example, Claude resisted the urge to fall asleep in class even though he was very tired. Maybe splash some water on his face or something like that.
So Scarlett and Bod are going off to check out somewhere that the other ghost said, don't go there.
Don't go there.
Where do they go? Well, they go there. And it says, together they enter an ancient tomb inside a hill, which disturbs the Sleer.
Not the Sleer.
Indeed.
What's the Sleer?
We'll have to read on.
Okay.
What we do know is it lives in an ancient tomb. Something that's ancient is very, very old. Not just just 100 years or 50 years. We're talking about centuries on centuries, thousands of years in some cases. We often use it to refer to the ancient world, Rome, Greece, Egypt, ancient China of thousands of years ago, and so on. For example, we could say an ancient chariot was found buried beneath the streets of Rome.
Wow.
So that's probably a couple of thousand years old.
Definitely. And of course, many tombs might be ancient as well, because they're places where we would bury people. You mentioned the Egyptians. Of course, many of the Egyptian tombs were built into pyramids or built into the rock walls of the Valley of the Kings, for example. In a tomb, it's kind of like a graveyard, but it's more of a building or maybe more of a room, and you will put the dead person in there. And you might also, like with the Egyptians, put in other things, gold, furniture, wonderful pieces of art that sort of celebrate this person, or maybe even that this person will use when they're dead or something like that. So most people today might not have a tomb, although I've seen some family tombs.
Yes.
And they might put in all of the remains or the bodies of grandparents and children and things like that. But it's kind of a structure, a building or a room designed to hold the body or the remains of the dead.
So when Scarlett and Bod go in there, they disturb the sleer. To disturb something, it could mean to bother, to interrupt, to stop somebody doing what they're doing. Here we imagine that this creature, whatever it is, has been sort of sleeping or not going out, but by going in, they wake it up. Think of any kind of horror or monster movie.
True.
When you go and, think of even something like Aladdin. They go into the Cave of Wonders and the monkey grabs the jewel and it disturbs the cave and it all starts crashing down.
Oh my gosh.
You never should touch those kind of things or go into those places, because doing so always disturbs or wakes up whatever evil spirit is in there. So what is this sleer?
I have no idea, but we'll read on and find out. It says, this dark presence is guarding its master's treasure as it waits for him to return.
Oh.
Wow, that's a little interesting, because we don't really get an idea of what it is. It's just described as a dark presence. This is probably scary, not dark like I can't see anything, it's dark. This is dark as in black magic or evil or something like that. And as I said, it doesn't say it's a dragon. It doesn't say it's a giant or an ogre. It says it's a dark presence, which is actually kind of scarier. So yeah, as I mentioned there, a presence, especially when we read it in a horror book or a horror story like this, is almost kind of scarier than saying a werewolf or a vampire, because a presence is just something that is there. But the thing is, you can't really see it. It doesn't have a shape. You can't look at it and go, oh, look, there's a vampire. It's coming to kill me. No. It's scarier than that, because you feel it. You can probably feel that it's evil or dangerous or something like that, but you're not quite sure what it is. Sometimes ghosts and spirits, which of course in stories we can't really see, those would be described as a presence, and they're not always evil. You could also talk about a good presence or a healing or a kind presence. Maybe if you just have the feeling after a loved one dies, it's almost like I can feel like my grandfather is nearby me now. I'm in a place he used to love. Here we are. I came here with him on a day just like today, and it's almost like he is here with me. You can't see him. It's not a ghost, but it's just a feeling of that person or that thing being around you. For example, it's almost like I can still feel my grandmother's presence in her old home. Oh, very interesting. Hopefully, your grandmother was a nice, lovely lady. But I think in this case, this presence is not your lovely old grandmother.
No.
It's something much more frightening.
Yeah, we know it is guarding this person's treasure. It's almost like this person created an evil sort of ghost spirit to look after all his money, and maybe he'll come back, maybe he's dead, but this sleer creature just stays on, guarding the treasure. To guard something means to protect it, to stop anybody from taking it away. And of course, if they really tried, whatever's guarding it might hurt you. A dog could guard a house from people who come to steal things.
Sure.
Would bark loudly to wake people up, might even bite the thieves. It is a guard dog in that way. We talk about people guarding the president to stop harm coming to her, that sort of thing. Or we can use it in a more simple way of just keep an eye on it, make sure no one takes it. For example, can you stay here and guard my suitcase while I go to the washroom?
Okay, so no one
protect
steals
it. Make sure no one takes it.
And the good thing about that, of course, is we can also use it as a noun. The person standing there in the bank to stop you from stealing stuff, that is the guard. The guard is guarding the bank, keeping it safe from danger or bad things happening. Back to the article, Bod and Scarlett are scared, but they touch nothing and leave safely. Wow, interesting. So they could feel the presence of the Sleer. They might even have known that they were disturbing the Sleer, so they were smart. Like, this is not good. We should just be really careful and get out of here as fast as we can. They weren't filling their pockets with treasure or anything like that, but maybe they already did too much by disturbing the Sleer.
Who knows? What we do find out is that after Scarlett moves away, so this is time passing, her family's gone somewhere, and Bod's still in the graveyard, and we see Bod makes another friend. Remember at the start we said a living friend and a dead friend. So who's the dead friend?
Okay, so we're meeting his second friend. He meets Liza Hempstock just outside the graveyard, where she was buried without a headstone. Very interesting. It's kind of sad, actually, to think that this young lady, Liza Hempstock, who probably died many years ago or hundreds of years ago, she was buried without a headstone. All right, so yes, as we mentioned, Liza is dead. She's no longer living, and traditionally, that's what people used to do with dead bodies. They would bury them. When you bury something, you dig a hole in the ground, you put something you want to keep safe or secret inside the hole, and then you cover it with dirt and make it look like nothing happened and there's nothing interesting under here. We do it, of course, with bodies because, leaving a body just lying around is not clean or nice or the right thing to do. But we could also bury things, as I said, to keep them safe or even to keep them secret. Think of pirates burying their treasure. They dig a hole, put that box filled with diamonds or whatever inside the hole, and then they cover it up. Here's something else that you might think of when you think of the word bury. Do dogs really bury bones, or does that just happen in cartoons? Good question.
So this woman, Liza, was buried in a grave without a headstone.
Yeah, that's the part I said is kind of sad.
Yeah, a headstone is this stone that goes at the head of the grave, which means at the end closest to the head of the body. So we call it a headstone. And as Mike mentioned in day one, this is the nice stone. It has some writing on it. It says the full name of the person, when they were born, when they died, sometimes some details about their life, their family, children, husbands, parents, maybe something about what they did, maybe a nice little message. And they're often carved, some flowers are carved into the stone, something that looks nice. Now, if you've got a headstone on a grave, it shows that you were loved, you had family. So if you didn't have a headstone, then you've kind of been cut off from whatever family was there. And also nobody knows it's a grave, so no one will respect that bit of ground. We often call it an unmarked grave. There's nothing to show who lived there or why. So it is a kind of a sad thing. So it's almost like kicking this person out of the community, the family.
Right, or like you're trying to erase them from history. We'll just put them in the ground and no one will talk about that person ever again. Now, why was Liza treated in this kind of unkind or disrespectful kind of way? Well, she was treated this way because she was killed for being a witch. Oh my gosh, that's terrible. But of course, this is the kind of thing that did happen hundreds of years ago. People who were suspected of doing evil or having evil powers might be accused, especially if they were women, unfortunately, of being witches. And that's what we think of as a woman who has these magical powers, maybe evil powers. Think of the Halloween character with the black hat, the black clothes, riding on the broom, black cat, maybe a big bump on her nose going as she makes evil potions and things like that. But actually, a witch could also just be a wizard, like Harry Potter, who's a woman. So maybe Hermione is a witch too.
Yeah, kind
of.
But
a good witch. And actually, stories do often have good witches, evil witches, and good witches.
The Wizard of Oz, you got two good ones, two bad ones. Okay, so we've learned that this Liza was killed because people thought she was a witch. What we see in the article is she is always good to Bod, though, and keeps him safe as he grows older. So she's another one of these people in the graveyard or one of the spirits, the ghosts, who takes care of him at different times of his life, gives him knowledge, gives him some help, helps him grow up, that kind of thing. She's kind to him.
All right. And if someone is kind to you, especially that kind for a long period of time, it would only be natural to want to do something kind or nice back for that person. So Bod later pays her back for her kindness by making a simple headstone for her. So he finds a nice stone, maybe gets some tools, and over a few weeks or whatever, he designs it, writes her name on it, says, you know, a wonderful person or my best friend or something, and then he gives it to her.
Yep, and we read, she is touched by his thoughtful gesture.
So am I.
So it's a thoughtful thing, and it also shows what kind of person Bod is. He's a thoughtful person. If you are thoughtful or you do something thoughtful, this adjective means you are kind. You are mindful of others. You are thinking of them and maybe thinking of their needs as much as or more than your needs. So it's thoughtful. It shows that you're thinking about how they feel, what they want, what they need, and so on. So a person could be thoughtful, but here we're talking about a thoughtful gesture.
That's right. A gesture is basically an action. When we think of simple gestures, we're thinking of the things you do to communicate, like if you wave or if you say, come here or something. When you're communicating using movements of your body, especially your hands or your arms, that could be a gesture, or it's just something that you do for someone. If you make sure that a person who's busy, you make sure you wake up and make them breakfast so they have a bit more time to sleep in. Or on your birthday, your friends make sure to surprise you with a cake and some presents or take you out for lunch or something like that. These are the kind of gestures that we appreciate, or the kind of gestures that we do for the people we love, the people we care about, just to show them that they're important to us. For example, it was a kind gesture for you to drive me to the train station. I could have taken a taxi, I could have found another way, but you drove me, saved me some money, we've spent some time together. It was a very nice thing for you to do for me.
Okay, so that's just a bit of a picture of Bod's life in the graveyard.
Sounds pretty good.
Yeah, we're going to get back to some of the real plot details in day 3, but right now let's go to our For You Chat question.
For You Chat.
So the question is, who are your special friends? What makes them special to you?
Wow, that's an interesting question. I would have to probably mention some of my old friends I've known since high school, for many, many years. Of course, some of the friends I've made here who I've shared many interesting experiences with, just people that you've had some interesting times or important times or even difficult times with. The people that even if you travel far away, even if you move to the other side of the world, these are people you will always talk to regularly. You'll always want to see them and things like that.
Yeah, I think about the people who I've performed on stage with, and I'm sure it's the same for you. People you've played music with.
People I played music with,
yeah. People who I have done writing with. We've worked together on the same stories or books or stuff like that.
I have a lot in common with these people.
Yeah, you find people who enjoy the same things, and you could talk about them for hours. So those kind of people, and of course my wife, because spending life together, raising children together, we are special friends in that way. What about you guys? Who is special to you and why? Have a chat about it and join us again tomorrow for part 3. See you then. Bye.
Vocabulary Review.
Resist. Layla is trying to lose weight, but she can't resist eating food with a lot of sugar. Ancient. At this museum, you can see tools from ancient times. They are thousands of years old. Presence. Evelyn felt scared when she saw an evil presence in her room. Guard. These big dogs are trained to guard the house and keep strange people away. Bury. Sadly, Phil's cat got so old that it died. He buried it in his backyard. Gesture. Sorry, We can't go to your place for dinner tonight, but thanks for offering. It was a nice gesture.
智慧小补帖。
Tomb. Disturb. Headstone. Witch.
以上节目是由活用空中美语制作，活用空中美语杂志，请洽询全国各大书店。如欲索取试听教材，请来电02-2364-4000 02-2364-4000，或上网查询，网址是 www.english4u.net www.english4u.net